Just want to begin by saying hello, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us. We're delighted, in fact, and that we hope that this evening will be a unique experience that will be enriching and rewarding for everybody. As Rosemary just said, I'm Laura Josephson. I'm the homeopath, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some insights about how homeopathy can help us during this period of time and how we can, as we say in the title of our program, meet the vital self through homeopathy, and as well as through nutrition and movement that Judith will share later on.
Hello, I'm Judith Rose, and I am just delighted to be here this evening to share some of my practice with you called Vital Movement.
Great. So here we go. So I'd like to start by saying a little bit about where we are and how homeopathy fits into the scheme of things. So right now, the human being is exposed daily to a sense of collective shock, of chronic uncertainty and trauma at this epic moment in global history. It affects every aspect of our being. The times are calling upon us to be patient, adaptive, resourceful, creative, and connect to spirit. Homeopathy is a dynamic healing modality that can affect very positive change and help to maintain balance in the body, the mind, and the spirit. It offers resources for resiliency to keep us centered and guide us back home to ourselves again.
Vital Movement is a strong, fluid, and lyrical movement practice that reintroduces us to organic life patterns and rhythms that affect healing, growth, and transformation. Like homeopathy, Vital Movement is also energy medicine, and it can help us maintain equilibrium in difficult times. Our workshop aims to interweave both practices to put us in touch with our capacity to live harmoniously within ourselves and with each other.
Beautifully said. So would you like to offer your poetic invocation?
Talk about Mother's Day.
Oh, that's right. I was going to talk about Mother's Day. Sorry. Okay. So Mother's Day is just around the corner. And so we just wanted to take a moment to honor the beauty and the wisdom and contributions of women through the ages. Trailing behind us and in our midst, we have ancestors and mothers among us, and mothers-to-be as well. Tonight, Judith and I are both here to support your health and well-being and offer you some resources which can sustain you during the times we're facing. Okay.
We begin with poetic invocations. I drew mine from the world of Mary Oliver, one of my favorite poets, and I know a beloved poet among so many others here in Nyack and beyond. She wrote the following thing: "It is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world." And I paraphrase for our purposes tonight by saying, it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh evening in this broken world. Laura?
I would like to call forth the voice of White Eagle, who is a Hopi indigenous elder, one of the wisdom keepers of North America. And no matter what your spiritual orientation or origins or inclinations might be, I hope that these words will resonate with you because I think they're really universal and speak so much to this moment. It's a poem, it's a poetic verse, you could say, written by White Eagle of the Hopi Nation. And it's called Vision Quest. The moment, this moment, humanity is going through can now be seen as a portal and as a hole. The decision to fall into the hole or go through the portal is up to you. If you repent of the problem and consume the news 24 hours a day with little energy, nervous all the time, with pessimism, you will fall into the hole. But if you take the opportunity to look at yourself, rethink life and death, take care of yourself and others, you will cross the portal. Take care of your homes. Take care of your body. Connect with your spiritual house. When you are taking care of yourselves, you are taking care of everything else. Do not lose the spiritual dimension of this crisis. Have the eagle aspect, that from above, and see the whole, see more broadly. There is a social demand in this crisis, but there is also a spiritual demand. The two go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we fall into fanaticism. But without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and lack of meaning. You were prepared to go through this crisis. Take your toolbox and use all the tools available to you. Learn about the resistance of the indigenous and African peoples. If we have always been and continue to be exterminated, but we still haven't stopped singing, dancing, lighting a fire, and having fun. Don't be guilty about being happy during this difficult time. You do not help at all by being sad and without energy. You help if good things emanate from the universe now. It is through joy that one resists. Also, the storm passes. Each of you will be important in the reconstruction of the new world.
We're going to begin our formal presentation now with Laura, and she'll be talking about homeopathy, essential oils, flower essences, and nutrition. After her presentation, I'll be guiding you through some beautiful movement sequences in vital movement, and you'll be needing a sturdy chair, not something that rolls around, and a chair that does not have any arms, so that you can feel fully expressed movement in all of the joy of it. We begin with Laura.
Great. So here, I'm delighted to be able to share some homeopathy with you. And so a little bit about what homeopathy is and what it can do. What is it used for? How does it work? So it's a system of healing that's been around for over 200 years. It started in Germany with Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. It spread throughout the world, and it's met a great deal of success helping people of all ages with all kinds of ailments, whether they're physical, emotional, or mental, at every age. And it's a way of stimulating the immune system using natural substances. And the remedies are very safe to use. And there are homeopathic hospitals all over the world. There used to be a time in American history when homeopathy was extremely popular. There were homeopathic colleges, hospitals, clinics, dispensaries. And the early part of the 20th century, there were a lot of changes in the way people were thinking about medicine and people who had power who were orchestrating that. So homeopathy went underground for the better part of the 20th century, but in the 1970s, there was a real renaissance. And that's when I started to learn about homeopathy and have been completely smitten with it since. I see remarkable results helping people with homeopathy, and I love sharing ways that people can use it for themselves, for common ailments, for first aid. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, which is a guidebook for helping yourself at home. So let's talk a little bit about homeopathy for anxiety and stress, because that's something that many of us are feeling. And somebody said to me the other day, if people aren't feeling anxiety or stress, they're probably not paying attention to how they're feeling. So, so there are some wonderful remedies that can really help to help you feel more centered and balanced and help to alleviate stress or anxiety. And I'm going to tell you about some of the remedies and the specific indications for their use. There are remedies such as Arsenicum album, which is a wonderful remedy for anxiety and fear. And it fits in many ways the current pandemic situation. It both helps with anxiety, but it also can be a helpful remedy for viral illness. But for the purposes of this talk, we're going to really focus on how it can help emotionally, which can also boost the immune system because everything is connected. The physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, these are all interwoven. And so if one part is improving, chances are very good that everything will improve. So people who need arsenicum album, I'm just going to give you a little profile of the remedy. And then, you can take note of it. If it's something that might suit you, you can give it a try if you feel anxiety or stress. It's often known, it's very well known in homeopathy for being helpful for people who have anxiety about health. They have fear of disease or fear of being alone. People who need arsenicum like a lot of reassurance. They can often be quite restless with their anxiety. They can pace back and forth or toss and turn in bed or need to fidget and feel restless with their anxiety. And they often feel temporarily better if things are in order. If they go on a tear in their house and they scrub the counters down and they clean up and make everything tidy, it gives them some sense of control over things that in their environment, and it can make them feel better to be obsessively cleaning or putting everything in a tidy sort of order. And so the indications for the use for arsenicum is anxiety about health, a lot of anguish and restlessness, fear and fright and worry, a lot of fretting, fear of death, fear of being alone, especially at night when it gets dark, fear about going to bed. There can really be an agonizing fear of death. And certainly during the pandemic, a lot of people have this sense of dread. They worry about not only themselves, they worry about their loved ones. They can have a despairing look toward view toward what's going on in the world. So this can be a really helpful remedy for despair, tormenting thoughts, fear of death, et cetera, et cetera. So, it can really be helpful. And that's a good remedy to keep around during this time. Another remedy is phosphorus. It's the element phosphorus. And this is for people who are also very anxious about health. But the fears that they experience are often not so much about their own safety, but they're very sympathetic people, and they tend to really worry about others. They often have a great deal of sensitivity for picking up on other people's feelings and other people's suffering. Sometimes the boundaries between themselves and others feels a little bit blurry, and they tend to be very open and and intuitive. And so they can have a lot of anxiety about family members, really worrying about their friends or family. They can have a dread that something terrible is about to happen. And so, they're beset with this sort of fear, and they can have lots of little other fears too. Generally things that are out of control, like they may have fears about, thunderstorms or lightning or sudden noises, or something dreadful is going to happen. And there could be this, again, this kind of dread. So they are often very, very social people, and are often really, really depressed or sad if they're cut off from other people. So this can be a really great remedy for people who are having a difficult time being apart from others, feeling isolated. So again, some of the indications for phosphorus are fear that something bad, this sort of general dread or foreboding or anxiety that something bad will happen, sympathetic anxiety for other people. Sometimes they feel their anxiety arising from the stomach. They have this feeling that it's in their gut, a sympathetic kind of dread, worrying about others, fear of death, and fear about, and also having depressed spirits. They feel a lot better when the sun comes out. They tend to really like bright and sunny weather. Well, most of us do anyway, but this is particularly true for people that need phosphorus. Another remedy that's helpful for anxiety and fear during this time is called argentum nitricum, or silver nitrate, or as we call it in homeopathy for short, argnit, argentum nitricum. It's a very well established remedy for people who have anticipatory anxiety, dread, a feeling that, if they have to take a test or an exam, or they're going into a public place, then they haven't been out in public for a long time. They're going into a restaurant or attending a wedding, and they have this sense of dread or foreboding. It's anticipatory. It's almost worse than the thing itself. but it's the anticipation is driving them crazy. They often will feel like they have to go to the bathroom a lot. They can have diarrhea. They could have to urinate frequently with the anxiety. They also can feel it in their stomach. They have a lot of dread about going to the doctor or the dentist, or, you know, before anything where they could be examined or fail at, like having a test or a performance or public speaking. Or any kind of an event, even something pleasurable. It could be like, you know, they're going to their first, you know, public gathering since the pandemic, and they're excited, but they're also really nervous, and they get very restless and they might pace around. They often are very warm-blooded. They tend to be hot and want fresh air. So you could differentiate between that and Arsenicum album. Is Arsenicum people tend to be more chilly and like to wrap up a lot more. Argentum nitricum people are warm-blooded. They really feel better from the fresh air. They want to take a walk. They like to go walk faster and faster. With their anxiety, they tend to walk briskly. So they, yes, again, they crave the fresh air. They don't want to stay in the house. So there's this, again, this anticipatory dread. They tend to be nervous and sometimes can have impulsive fears. Like, you know, they may have a fear of heights, and they'll be looking over the edge of out a window of a tall building, and they'll imagine themselves jumping, even though they don't want to do that and they won't do it, but they may just sort of go through this impulsive thought exercise that frightens them. So the indications are, again, that they're impulsive, tend to hurry. Time passes too slowly. They tend to like to walk fast. They can feel also depressed, you know, that a cloud is hanging over them, and they can be depressed and sighing sometimes. They feel worse in a closed room. They like open air, and they can be irritable with their nervousness too. All right, so those are some indications for Argentum nitricum. And then the last remedy before we move on to some other things is Calcarea carbonica. And that is a remedy made from calcium carbonate that actually comes from the inner lining of an oyster shell, Calcarea carbonica. And like phosphorus, Calcarea types tend to be sympathetic, and they are therefore deeply affected by sad stories. So they tend to really not want to watch the news. They can't handle a terrible story about somebody dying, or hearing sad news, or a heartbreaking story of any kind, or something that's just deeply moving. It's too much for them. They don't like, you know, they might have nightmares after watching a drama or a movie, even if it's not a horror movie. They may really take it to heart. Sad or intense stories really affect them quite a bit. They tend to be very conscientious, more earthy and responsible type of people who carry a sense of weight of the world bearing down upon them. They tend to worry a lot. They worry about lots of things, not just people they care about, but everything, their business, you know, they just seem to be very careworn and worried. They tend to be a little bit on the chilly side, and they are sometimes hopeless and despairing about things ever getting better. They can be a bit melancholic and doubting. They're cautious. They don't necessarily like to try new things. And so they're careful and are, you know, prone to feeling anxious, and even can have night terrors. They might cry out during sleep, and you know, be frequently waking from and being disturbed at night. So that's a remedy, another remedy, Calcarea carbonica. These are 4 remedies that are really wonderful for different types of stress and anxiety. And then there are some other really fantastic remedies that can be used just acutely for a number of things. For general anxiety during this time, I often recommend, if you're not sure which remedy to try, Arsenicum album can be a good first place to go, because it covers so many of people's moods during this pandemic, and it's kind of a universal remedy right now. So with that, I want to also talk about some essential oils to use, and also some flower essences, which can really be helpful. But I'll first want to just take a break from all the minute remedies and just talk a little bit more generally about nutrition, diet, lifestyle things, because there's a lot we can do to help to alleviate our stress, to look after ourselves, ways that we can care for our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body. So whatever feels appealing to you in terms of movement, and Judith is going to address the issue of movement shortly, but also connecting with nature is really important, especially since a lot of us are not connecting with people as much or having limited contact. It's important for us to have a sense of life, right? Life. Getting your fingers in the dirt, gardening, bird watching, hiking, rock climbing, swimming, whatever suits your fancy, whatever floats your boat, kayaking. Find a way to connect with nature, watch and observe and take in, drink in, breathe in the beauty of nature and how it vibrates life and how we are actually a very integral part of it. So, these are really important things that should not be overlooked, and find ways to make yourself at peace or with your environment, such as, hiking and the other things that I mentioned. Getting enough sunlight is extremely important for immune health. We know that vitamin D is produced in our bodies by exposure to sunlight, and vitamin D is really critical for having resilience for any kind of viral illness. It's probably one of the most important physiologic factors that can make a difference. So there's all the more reason to spend time in the sun. Okay, so another thing that's impinging upon us, that's detracting or subtracting from our overall health, is our connection to electronic media. And we have it everywhere. We have tablets, we have iPads, we have cell phones, we have laptops. Every store we go into is humming and buzzing with electromagnetic energy. There are cell phone towers everywhere. In the last few months, there were over 600 new satellites that were launched orbiting our Earth, not to mention all the thousands that are already there. So from every angle, we're being surrounded with a lot of electromagnetic energy. We're adaptable, thank goodness, but there are limits, and sometimes these energies can really become detrimental to our health. So I just like to encourage people to find ways to limit their exposure. Sometimes it's really not possible. You can't walk into a grocery store or a hospital even without being bombarded with these things. So good nutrition is extremely important. And also there are some things you can do, like when you sleep, turning off your Wi-Fi in your home, unplugging it so it's not even emitting. It's not enough just to turn your phone off, but just unplug for the night so that you get a really deep and restful sleep. There are things like having certain stones that really absorb and deflect some of this energy from the human body. There's a stone called shungite, S-H-U-N-G-I-T-E. Shungite, you can put it's a black stone, and it's known to really absorb quite a bit of electromagnetic radiation. You can put it near your computer, your laptop. You can get little things to attach to your phone. There are various ways. Some people have jewelry made out of it. So you can look into that and read all about it. There's tons of information on the internet about shungite. All right, so as far as nutrition goes, it's kind of common sense advice that I would give. Whole foods, fresh foods, as much freshly prepared, whole, unpackaged, uncanned food as you possibly can. These are the foods, and as organic as possible, or pasture raised, or naturally raised as possible, with any meat or animal products. Because animal products, including eggs, milk, yogurt, dairy, cheese, and all the flesh meats, all of the toxins that are in commercial feedlots, including, drug residues, pesticides, et cetera, are stored in the fat cells of animals. So if you want to really have a clean and healthy diet, you want to make sure Well, if you can, all of your food is as free from pesticides or all kinds of residues as possible and are naturally raised with integrity. And so if you can, organic all the way, or at least know your farmer, go to your farmer's market. Even if something's not organic, it sometimes can be just as good, if not better, than something that was shipped halfway across the world that's labeled organic. So read labels, be a wise shopper, look for freshness and vitality in your food. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some essential oils for calming and centering that are also antimicrobial. Many essential oils are actually very antimicrobial. People are surprised to know that they are often many of them have remarkable healing properties with regard to viral or bacterial illness. But I want to focus on 3 different oils that are especially really wonderful for focusing, uplifting the spirit, feeling centered again, returning you to your sense of self. And the first one I want to talk about is angelica root. It's not a common oil that you find, on the health food store shelf. It's something you may have to special order from somewhere, or go to an aromatherapy company or an essential oil company. And I can tell you the name of a few if you'd like to know. But angelica root is remarkable. It's deeply relaxing. It's very centering. It has a history of being used. It's actually in the celery family. It has a history of being used for digestion, for respiratory problems, for flus, and it aids in building strength during convalescence from illness. It's also a lymph and blood cleanser and purifier, and it even really strengthens the emotional body. So angelica root, like its name, the angel, or the official name is Angelica archangelica, the archangelic angel. It actually, some say, can connect you with your guardian angel. It's something from the plant kingdom that really helps to align you with your truest and deepest and clearest, best self. So I recommend you can just waft it back and forth under your nose. You can open a bottle of it, deeply inhale, go back and forth so that it goes in both nostrils. The vapors from an essential oil or a volatile oil go right up into your brain. It's very quick. You can really feel the effect very quickly. It's remarkably calming and soothing under very stressful conditions. It's great for any kind of fatigue and stress related condition. It's often more suitable for women. It's has some hormonal benefits for women, but it can also be very helpful for men. So I'm a big fan of angelica. Before we go on to the other two or three remedies, oils, I just want to say that when selecting an essential oil, I always recommend following this cardinal rule, which is don't use an oil that you have a strong antipathy toward. In other words, if you don't like the smell, if it makes you go, ugh, no, don't use it therapeutically. It's not going to work for you, or it's not suitable for you, or it may stress you. So it may be a time where you could return to it and try it at another time. But my best advice is to always use something that you feel like, okay, this oil has something to teach me. These are essences of plants that really carry the life body energy of the plant. They have a very, very powerful vibrational property. You don't need a lot. That's why you can just smell an essential oil, and it can be incredibly mood altering in a very positive way. So with that said, just bear in mind, you can smell it. You can also mix it with a carrier oil, and such as coconut oil or sesame, jojoba, sweet almond oil, grapeseed oil, and then you can add it to a bath, or you can rub it on your skin. Angelica in particular is very photosensitive, so you want to not put it on directly on your skin without diluting it. And then if you go into the sun, not good. You want to dilute it if you use it in any kind of skin lotion. Okay, so that's angelica. The next one is called bergamot, or bergamot, if we pronounce it in the French or Italian way. It comes from the citrus family, and a lot of the citrus oils have a brightening, uplifting, cheer-inducing kind of quality to them. They're clearing or cleansing. We think of Mr. Clean, right? The lemon, the powerful grease cutting and, you know, cutting through the mire kind of stuff where you make things clean and fresh. Bergamot essential oil is really wonderful for the nervous system. It's known as a sedative, but it's also very uplifting. It's one that is used for its antidepressant activity. So it is very brightening to the spirits. It's also great for other types of viral illnesses, such as herpes simplex, the one that causes cold sores. So it's known to have an affinity for helping people with viral conditions. It's also historically been used to treat bladder infections, urinary tract infections, and anyway, it has antiseptic properties too. So it can be put in a bath. If you feel like you're getting a bladder infection, you can add a few drops to a bath, and sometimes that can head it off at the pass. It's also known to release gas if you have, you know, if you feel bloating and gas in your, you know, having indigestion or some kind of colic. So bergamot is, again, a very bright and uplifting aroma. It's one that I find a lot of men really like. So if you're thinking of, you know, helping somebody in your life, a lot of men gravitate toward this smell, more so than perhaps the angelica. But that's not a rule of thumb. You can just try it out and see how it works. The next one is ylang ylang, of which it took me about 5 years to learn how to pronounce properly. It's a tongue twister. Ylang ylang. It's deeply relaxing and uplifting. It has a very strong kind of a floral sweetness to it. It's like jasmine. It's called poor man's jasmine by some people. It has that almost like a freesia or a jasmine type of aroma, if you're familiar with those. And it's almost euphoric, but it's sedative. It's not like exciting. It's really relaxing. And it often can lower blood pressure if that's an issue for you. It can be very helpful for just really calming the nervous system and the circulatory system. And then the last oil I'm going to mention is rose geranium. That again is also very uplifting. It's a hormone balancer. It's also antibacterial and extremely versatile. Like lavender, rose geranium is one of the most versatile oils. It helps with balancing feelings of the will with stress, like what do I do, what do I not do? I want to do this, but I can't do that, where there's sense of antagonism within one's own sense of one's will. So it helps to balance people who feel very irritable and restless with sort of a driven behavior and with fear as well. It can really calm that sort of stormy inner life. And sometimes it can be mixed with orange oil, sweet orange and rose geranium together can be very, very wonderful combination to ease frustration and bring a sense of peace. You can also diffuse it, I should mention, not just for olfaction by smelling, but you can also add it to a bath, or you can put it in a diffuser. And there are lots of different types of you know, diffusers available for aromatherapy that are out there. So these are just a number of helpful plants that are really happy to be helpful to humanity. That's what they're here for. They want to have a relationship with us, and it's good for us to have a relationship with them. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some Bach flowers before Judith does some movement. Flower essences are gentle yet powerful adjuncts to homeopathic care. Some people consider them homeopathy. They're sort of in a peripheral way homeopathic, but they are based on what we call the law of similars, which is how homeopathy works. So the Bach flowers, which are Dr. Bach, or in England they call him Dr. Bach, was a keen observer of the flower kingdoms or the flower world, and developed a system for understanding how they would benefit people for emotional difficulties. There's a very popular product called Rescue Remedy, which is probably the most popular of the flower essence combinations. It's a combination of 5 flower essences, which are known to help people in any kind of feeling of crisis, whether it's physical or emotional. You've gotten just terrible news on the phone, you bumped your head, whatever it is, crisis, something happened and you're having a lot of trouble coping. Rescue Remedy is really wonderful. You can put a few drops in a glass of water and sip it all day. It comes in a little mini sprayer for the mouth. It also comes in lozenges, and then I think in drops as well. So there are lots of different forms. There's also a special one that's helpful for sleep that they make. So you can look in your health food store. Most health food stores carry some line of either Rescue Remedy in various forms or other individual flower essences that you can mix yourself. You can create blends yourself. So one flower essence that I think is really wonderful is called Mimulus. And it's specific for anxieties and fears, including fear of illness and pain, fear of death, fear of the future, and fear of being alone. It's a very fragile flower kind of a feeling these types of anxieties. And again, these can be mixed with some of the other ones that I'm going to mention. There's aspen, flowers from the aspen tree. That's really great for sudden attacks of anxiety with inexplicable fears and apprehensions, nightmares, wakes in with fear and panic, imagination running wild. It's often great for children who, have frightful dreams and wake up. We also have homeopathic remedies very specific for that too that work wonderfully. Children that don't want to sleep alone in the dark, who are really frightened, for more of a kind of sudden type of panic feeling. There's cherry plum. There's this feeling of fear of losing control, this desperate feeling to hold on to things, to feel in control, as if one is about to have a nervous breakdown if they can't control things. And sometimes people who need this will have a sudden uncontrolled outbreak of rage. They go into a rage if they can't control things. So this can be a very calming and centering flower essence as well. And then there's rock rose, which is one of the ingredients in the Rescue Remedy. With a sudden escalation of fears and anxieties from any cause, panic-stricken, a sense of terror, panic due to nightmares. This is really wonderful. And again, it's one of the cornerstones of the Rescue Remedy blend that I mentioned. Then there's sweet chestnut for extreme despair, a feeling that the utmost limit of endurance has been reached, feeling utterly lost inside, helpless and in total isolation. Some people call this the dark night of the soul flower essence. It really helps bring that person back to their sense of there's hope. Okay, we can go on. That people feel the sense of despair, that there's only chaos and destruction, a loss of hope, afraid of breaking down under stress. So this can be remarkably helpful. We also have remedies for this state of despairingness with regular homeopathic remedies such as Aurum metallicum, which comes from gold, which is wonderful for really deep depression and despair and hopelessness. And then the last flower essence I'm going to mention is white chestnut, which is different than the sweet chestnut. The white chestnut is for persistent and unwanted thoughts going round and round and round and round. Insomnia from persistent thoughts. There's blah, 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 blah. Constant mental chatter, dwelling on particular negative thoughts. So this can be enormously helpful. I'm just going to mention one more. I forgot I wanted to mention walnut. Walnut is great for change. It's the remedy for people. It's the flower essence for people who are resistant to change or are having real difficulty adjusting to some new circumstance. If you had to move, if you had somebody move in with you, any kind of a change that's marked. And a lot of people have been going through changes, so it's something to keep in mind. It's great for pets that have to move or go somewhere new. I've seen it work wonders with humans and animals. So again, it's for resistance or difficulty adapting to a significant change. And any kind of unexpected outside event forces a person to rethink their whole approach to life. Like, okay, I have to reorient myself. So walnut it can be really helpful in that regard. So anyway, I've touched on a number of remedies, homeopathic and essential oils, and the flower essences. And, you know, there's never one right, only single way to solve a problem. Sometimes all you need is to talk to a friend. Sometimes all you need is to just, you know, take a remedy, take a bath, take a walk outside, get some fresh air, some exercise. There are a lot of different ways to soothe anxiety. One last thing that I want to mention about self-care is creativity. Doing something that's creative. Not everybody feels that impulse to make things or do something creative, but I mentioned gardening before. Seeing something grow, planting a seed or putting in a seedling and watching it come to fruition is a really wonderful thing. It's a creative process. You're participating in the creation of a new plant life. Creating things, art, music, writing, painting the walls of your home, redecorating, doing something new, finding ways to adapt that are creative gives you a sense of purpose, meaning, agency, power, that you are actually not at the mercy of the sort of situation that we find ourselves in the world. So with those words of encouragement, we'll be taking questions at the end, but I'm going to wrap that up for now. And I'm going to turn things over to our lovely Judith, and she's going to lead us in some movement, and I'll be back. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura. I learned so much. I just was sorry I didn't have a pen and pencil with me. So let's take a moment to regroup. And let's do that by breathing together. Even though we're on a screen, I'm going to invite us tonight to use the screen and see the screen as an infinite portal of possibility and transformation. I know that can happen. And the first thing I want to do before we breathe together is invite you once again to join me on this journey. And I'd like to formally welcome you. We're each in our homes. It's such an unusual situation to have strangers coming into our homes through this portal called a screen. I'm not in my home tonight, but I'm here at the Nyack Library's home, and each of you are in your homes. And I'm going to use a phrase that's used in my own family. My family is a Jerusalemite family who lived in the land of Israel for 8 generations. I'm the first generation out of the land of Israel. And I'm used to the precept that we held so dear in my home, and that was the welcoming of the guest, the welcoming of the stranger. And we would say, Bruchim Haba'im, which means blessed are those who come, or blessed are the coming ones. And you have come tonight to share this evening of sharing with Laura and myself. And I say that to you now, Bruchim Haba'im, blessed are you who have come here tonight. And I'm going to ask that even though we're on a screen, that you take a moment to welcome me into your homes, because that welcome will help us have a collaboration that's very special with each other. And let's take a moment to breathe as a community, closing our eyes, feeling the magic of being alive, as Mary Oliver reminded us, and just taking one beautiful, deep, whole and holy breath. And I'm going to invite us now to bring ourselves into the movement space with a gesture that I call a soul gesture, something that reaches deep into the soul. taking the hands and crossing your wrists right in front of the heart space. And imagining that when we open those wrists, we're drawing a line that separates time. Everything that was up till this moment is outside our hands. And this line is going to bring us in to the sacred sanctuary of movement, fully present in this time that we're sharing with each other right now. So close your eyes once again and just feel yourself inside what Dr. Carl Jung called the tenemos, the sacred sanctuary, the sanctuary of present time, where nothing else can intrude on these precious moments that we're going to share with each other. I'm going to move back so that you'll be able to see me more fully, so that you'll be able to join me in the movement practice of vital movement. Make sure your chair is nice and steady and that you're sitting in a way where you can see me fully in your camera and in your screen. We're going to start by playing. Playing is a joyful experience, and we're going to play with movement, and we're going to try to explore 3 different lines, qualities of lines, as if we're drawing, but we're drawing with our bodies. So we're going to take our left arm, and we're going to, your left arm, the screen is opposite, I have to remember that. So we're going to take the left arm up, and we're going to create an arc. Just feel that shape. It's part of a circle. And let's create that again. Left arm creates an arc. Just feel the quality of this movement. And one more time. 3 is strengthening and over. Just feel the quality of that shape in the body. Let's try it with the right side. Coming up and over. Make sure you're breathing deeply as you're working. Feeling, what does this shape feel like? What feeling do I have when I'm creating an arc with my body? Beautiful. And now let's take one more to each side, real slow, as if we're drawing with a pencil on a wall. Just feel. Does this feel like a feminine movement or a masculine movement? Let's try the other side. Does it have a color? Does it have a sound? Does it have an emotion that it evokes in us? And let it go. Now taking your left arm and create a vertical line and feel the qualitative difference of what we just did. And you could look up and follow it with your eyes and down again. And inhaling up and exhaling down. And one more on the left side. Feel as if you're cutting through some beautiful fabric, silk perhaps. And the other side, right arm up and down. Feeling the difference between what we just did with the arc and the quality of a vertical line. And one more. Beautiful. And now coming back and drawing one arc with your left arm, letting that go and creating a vertical line with your right arm. Let's try that again. An arc and a line, make sure to breathe. And one more set of intertwining both, knowing that both appear in the world, in the geometry of life. And now let's try that on the other side. So the arc now is going to come with your right arm and the line with your left. And see if you can find a thread growing between your movements now that you're breathing and more comfortable in the discipline of movement. And one more. Beautiful. Now we're going to challenge ourselves. As we end the line on the left, we're going to start the left to do the arc. And then the right side will do the vertical line. And as we end the vertical line, we're going to go right into the arc and continue this pattern. And the line and the arc births itself right from the line. Beautiful. And one last time. Are you breathing? Are you smiling? And last time, vertical line and close. Ah, let's take a lovely ah together. Ah, the joy of movement. Okay, we have one more line in the geometry of life to explore, and that's the horizontal line. So we're going to take our left arm as if we're touching the top of a lake, and just without forcing it, take a look at where you are right now at this moment in your possibility of stretching to that side, and keeping your eyes on your fingers, just take it across horizontally and stop as soon as it feels comfortable and right. And just notice where you are in your range. And now let's inhale it open again, touching the top of a lake. Feel as if you're moving through water and come back. And just begin noticing, observing, is my range of motion changing just by doing, by observing, by breathing, and not having any place to go or to be, just where I am. Again, feeling as if we're touching the top of a lake. Our eyes are on our center fingers. And just noticing, and now stopping in your open place and noticing, gee, I'm so much further than when I started in my range of motion. And now let's see the other side. Wow, I'm almost in a twist. I'm sure most of you are imagining such a difference between where you began and where you ended. Let's try that same thing on the other side of the body, remembering that we're unique and our sides are unique. So it may not be the same one side and the other, but let's watch ourselves grow in our range on this side. Making sure to breathe, keeping your eyes on your hand, focusing the mind, not being afraid to be still. Breathing, watching, noticing what you notice, smiling within and without, making sure the shoulder is relaxed, that you're coming from underneath. And now holding it open, and just with a sense of radical amazement, a sense of wonder of how the body responds, and noticing the range increased on the other side. And let that go. And our final play with lines is going to put all of those three together. So we're going to start with the arc on the left. Remember that shape that we just did? The vertical on the other side. And then changing again to the horizontal line. And allowing ourselves to be free in our chair, to move the body as fully as it wants to be, and let that go. Good. Other side, arc. Let that go. Vertical line, alternating arms. And finally, horizontal line, alternating again and really moving, stretching from your chair all the way out and letting it go. And just sit to feel. Just notice, breathe, observe, smile, inner and outer. I'm going to read something to you that's inspired me for many years. It's a quote from a book called The Lights of Holiness by Abraham Isaac Cook. And he wrote the following: everyone must know and understand that within burns a candle, and no one's candle is identical with the candle of another. One needs to ignite one's candle and make of it a great torch to enlighten the world. Well, prepare to enlighten the world. We're going to begin with our right arm, and we're going to begin by just being a small candle flame, using the little fingers, the bones of the wrist directly over the crown, as if we're a lit candle circling right above the head. Having an image of yourself as a lit candle, and then very gradually begin increasing the circle circumference so that you can imagine that you now have a halo over your head. Think of those saints in the paintings of the Renaissance that have these golden saucers, these halos over their head. There's one in particular I'm thinking of, the beautiful Joan of Arc painting in the Metropolitan Museum that has the angel with the halo in the painting. And now let that gradually start increasing. So you're using more of your body. Now it's no longer a halo. It's the rings of the planet Saturn. You've become a planet, but you've also become a torch with a very wide fire, ready to enlighten the universe. Keep it going and breathe. Don't be afraid to come forward and back in your chair. Your arms, your lungs, your heart, everything is working. And now make it so big that you have to lean towards me and reach towards me. Beautiful. And now one in slow motion. Just noticing how deep and beautiful it is to move slowly. How magical it can be. You can look underneath and peek into your ring of Saturn. And let that come to stillness. Well, we're going to make a flame with the opposite arm. Very small. You're just a little lit candle. You're not yet a torch. And let that slowly turn into a halo. Let the gradations be gradual. So the body is still relatively still, moving with the movement. And then it starts graduating again. The circles enlarge. And as the circles enlarge, your range of motion enlarges. Because now you're a great torch, enlightening the world. Light your fire. Be full. Be expanded. Don't be afraid. As Nelson Mandela said in his presidential acceptance speech, don't hide your light. The world needs it, as Laura just reminded us. We are here because we need to be here at this time. One more full ring. And now beautiful slow motion, the depth of stillness. And let that come to a close and sit to feel. Just sit to feel. I'm going to read something to you while we're transitioning. The words are by Anais Nin, and she wrote the following. And the day came when the risk to remain closed tightly in a bud became more painful than it took to risk becoming a blossom. We are in a time of risk, but we also are in a time where we can bloom and be resilient within the challenges of our time. So we're going to take a journey. We're here in spring, and all these wonderful flowers are budding and blossoming. And we are going to bud and blossom too. And we're going to take some risks in blooming, even in a dark time, because we're called to do that right now. So we're going to create what's called a mudra. A mudra comes from the world of yoga, and it's a gesture of the soul and spirit that manifests itself through the body in having two parts of the body connecting in some expressive way that's recognizable. So we're going to create a bud by bringing the pinky edge of your hand together, the thumb edge of your hand together, and then closing the tips of the fingers, but you're still seeing around this because it's a bud. We're going to have that bud close to the heart. We'll talk a little bit later about the mysticism of fingers and nails, but not right now, because we're very still. We're just a bud. We're the potential of the blooming flower. We're a crystal, a distillation of beauty. How does that become a flower? We're going to experience that now as the bud, the potential, begins to open. So the fingers begin to open, but the pinky side and the thumb side remain connected. And we become the chalice, the holy chalice, the sacred, beautiful chalice of the flower. And the chalice of the flower needs light to grow. So we inhale, and as we exhale, we begin to allow this to rise up towards the light. Photosynthesis, the reaching towards light. We also need to reach towards light, metaphorically and virtually, as well as realistically, as Laura explained. So lift our flower as an offering to the light. And then take it down towards the heart and recognize that the flower also is hospitable, because in the dark and in the cold, the little insects come into the warmth and hospitality of the flower. And the flower mudra is a healing for this time of loneliness because of that. So let's inhale again and lift our flower towards the light. Let it take and bask in the sun that it needs to bloom. And then let us take it inward into our own hearts to heal our loneliness, our sense of isolation, remembering that the flowers take in the little insects in the nighttime cold. And we can take ourselves in and heal ourselves from loneliness with this mudra. And finally, we're going to become a fuller blossom by releasing the pinky side and the thumb side, and then taking one hand, doesn't matter which one, turning the wrist above the head as if we are blossoming from our crowns, closing our eyes and imagining that we are wearing 1,000 petals above us into a full and blooming self. And feel the energy of this blossom over our heads, taking us upward, reaching out from our little stuck places and blooming, 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 further and further towards the light and towards the fullness of our potential. And then quietly releasing the blossom and noticing and feeling What is being communicated by all of that? We're in a library, a place of literacy, literature, words, and genre, different genre of literature. And what's happening in our time in the world of literature is so exciting because new genre of literature are being birthed. We used to only think there was a story and a short story, but now there's a story, a short story, and something called a short story. We used to think that poetry had stanzas and verses, but now we have poems that have only one line. And I'm going to offer one of those tonight to us to work with in movement. It's a one-line poem, a complete poem in one verse. It was written by a young Iranian American woman who had passed through a difficulty. And she wrote the following poem. I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. And I thought that was an inspirational poem to work with tonight, as little by little, we too are blooming out of the darkness and the depths and the losses of this time that we've been in. We can bloom. So I've created what I call a choreo poem, a movement poem. We'll start with words and movement and end this choreo poem just with movement. So simply follow along. Starting with our right hand, I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. Taking that in. I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. And now putting away the literal words and working the poem twice, just in movement. Don't worry about being correct. Just be. Just be. And closing the eyes and feeling what you're feeling. Each of us may feel different things, hearing the same words, offering the same movement gestures. We're going to move into a mudra for our time. In the yoga pantheon of divine beings, my favorite is an elephant man called Ganesha. Many of you may know this symbol of Ganesha. He's top is elephant, he's got a big belly, and he sits. And he's known as the clearer of obstacles. What a wonderful image to have tonight, the clearer of obstacles in our path so that we can move ahead. The Ganesha mudra, when we do it, it is an extraordinary workout because, and scientists have corroborated this today and doctors have, it strengthens and warms the heart, it opens the bronchial tubes, it fosters courage and resilience. And what's really magical is that it empowers us to not be afraid socially. Some of us are just beginning to come out and be in the vista with other people. And many of us feel anxiety that's latent from all the months of isolation. The Ganesha mudra can help us move back into the realm of being with others with greater relaxation through our hearts. So let's engage that mudra tonight. We're going to take the right hand and put your palm towards me. And now take the left hand and put that palm towards the other, and now make a clasp right in front of the heart. And you'll feel in a moment why this strengthens the heart so beautifully. We're going to inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to pull. And just feel the warmth that's developing right across your heart. And then exhale and release. Let's try that again. Inhale. Pull, pull, pull. Feel your pectoral muscles strengthening. Feel your arms strengthening. Feel your heart space strengthening and warming, and release. And now, good for the brain, close your eyes and see if you can change the position of the palms. So the one that was in the front is going to the back, and the one that was in the back is going to the front. And we're going to do Ganesha mudra one more time. Inhale, pull, 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 hold your inhalation, pull, 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 feel the warmth, feel the resilience, feel courage, feel strength, and release the contraction. And one more time, inhale, and pull. Be courageous, strengthen the heart, remembering that courage starts with C-O-U-R, like the French word cœur, heart. Courage starts with the heart. I'm having you hold it, and now release it. Beautiful. Come back to your first hold, and we're going to move a little with it. Just take it across, and let the other arm pull you, and let your eyes follow. Get a little movement in the waistline, in your oblique abdominals, in your intercostals, moving from side to side, working your digestive tract through twisting. And coming back to center with a warmed heart, just warming the heart and letting it go. One of my favorite books is supposedly a book for children. And I find, and maybe you find, that most children's books really should be only read by adults. I want to show you the cover. The title of the book is Miss Rumphius. And if you haven't read it, I encourage not only that you buy it for children that you know, but before you give it to them, you read it for yourself. I'm going to quote the last lines of the book before we go into some of our final work and movement tonight. It's written, I want to give credit to the author. Barbara Cooney was the author and the illustrator of the book. And at the end of the book, it reads like this. That is all very well, little Alice, says my aunt, but there is one thing you must do. What is that, I ask? You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say, all right. And I believe very strongly that if we are here now and we are in the gift of life, we are here to make the world more beautiful. We are here to offer something to repair, fix, and heal our planet, our village, our community, and the greater community of all and everything. We're going to close our movement section by healing the world through movement and intention. And I ask that whatever conjuring looks like to you in your imagination, I'll show you the movement that it looks like for me, but whatever conjuring or bringing forward the light looks like to you, I'm going to ask you to do that now. And repeat that 3 more times, bringing in the light, opening the door to healing for the planet, for people we may know who need the gift of healing, for ourselves. And one more. Holding the hands up, we're going to take the right palm and put it on the left shoulder, the left palm on the right shoulder, and then we're going to build an arrow of love from our hearts, melting the palm straight from the heart, forward and out, reaching directly out to the other. We're going to draw into the well of our own hearts. And now we're going to reach this arrow of love and peace and healing to the 4 corners of the earth, wherever those corners are in your imagination, stretching out to corner number 1. It could be anywhere in your space. The 2nd corner. It could be high, the 3rd corner, maybe it's above you. The 4th corner, maybe it's deep down there. Bringing it back to your heart, and then taking a scanning of the entire planet by circling this arrow of love slowly around the circumference of the whole world, looking at all the people in that world, and then taking from yourself and offering, what is it that I'm here to give, to beautify and heal my family, my village, my community, and beyond. And 2 more gestures of offering with generosity. And then, as if we're looking at Mother Earth from above, offering the benediction of healing, as if we are soothing our planet through this healing modality of hands. And then taking all of that intention and lifting it to the mystery. And we have no control over what happens next. We trust that something good will happen, and we release and let it go. Feeling magic in our palms from our intentions. We're going to do that 1 more time without speaking words, and ending just with movement and silence. Taking a breath. And bringing palm to palm in balance, in equilibrium, in truth, in beauty, in gratitude. And just taking a simple nod of the head to the heart. Thank you for joining me in Vital Movement. Laura is going to offer her final closure, and then I will follow.
And then we'll take any questions that you might have for us.
Nice to be back closer to you.
Hello, hello again. That was wonderful. Thank you, Judith. Oh, I feel invigorated. I really felt myself as a sunflower with that those petals on top. So thank you. It was great. All right. Thanks for sticking with us, guys, ladies. I'd like to offer as my sense of closure and bringing things to a round is a beautiful poem from the great Irish poet and mystic John O'Donoghue. And it's called A Blessing for the Senses, which I think is so appropriate for what we're talking about tonight. I want to give it due by being able to actually read it. There we go. A blessing for the senses. May your body be blessed. May you realize that your body is a faithful and beautiful friend of your soul. And may you be peaceful and joyful and recognize that your senses are sacred thresholds. May you realize that holiness is mindful gazing, feeling, hearing, and touching. May your senses gather you and bring you home. May your senses always enable you to celebrate the universe and the mysteries and the possibilities in your presence here. May the Eros of the earth bless you.
I want to take a moment to just take the beauty of those words in and the beautiful way that Laura communicated them to us. I'm going to offer a few words from a long theater piece that I had written many years ago that had been commissioned by Habitat for Humanity. It's called River Story, and this is the closing of that piece. I offer it tonight as a closing poem. So look deeply, my sister, look deeply, my brother, into the very darkness of a river. For it is often when you find yourself in the darkest place that all becomes clear, all becomes light. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
We'll take some questions now. And Rosemary